Guys, what's going on? Welcome to Serial at Midnight. My name is Heath, and I am joined for a very special conversation about, well, I guess about oldies music by Lisa Downs. Lisa, thank you so much for being here at Serial at Midnight.
I said I was gonna, I've got my leather jacket on, ready, and
Yes,
we've both aptly dressed.
That's right.
So thank you for having me.
Yeah, this is your second appearance on Serial at Midnight. For people, let's go ahead at the top. These are your films: the Life After Flash documentary, the Life After the Navigator documentary. Awesome stuff. People should go ahead and they can finish the video, but when they're done with the video, they need to go check those out at lifeafter.com, right?
Lifeaftermovies.com.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And I finally sent you Life After Flash, so now they look good together, as opposed to you holding up the Flash Gordon box set. And I'm like, what? One looks strange. And
yes.
So yeah, and I've got a patch coming your way as well.
Ooh, patches! Yay! Awesome. I'll get it tattooed. I'll just
do it.
So what is this video? So we discovered we have a connection for like 50s and 60s music, right?
Mm-hmm.
What do kids call oldies, I guess?
Do you know what kids probably call anything pre-2000 oldies?
They play Nirvana on the classic rock station now, which to me, I'm like, that's not classic rock.
I can't even. The 90s is considered retro and bleh.
Yeah. And I don't even think that the music we're talking about is on format radio at all in the US anymore. I think it's kind of just fallen off the dial altogether.
I've discovered a greatest hits station near where I live. So that is my staple. So they don't go back to the 50s, but they'll do some 60s and then 70s, 80s, 90s. So that's my kind of.
See, we have one of those too, but I'm like, that's too big of a span, right? Because you'll get like the Supremes and then like Janet Jackson or something. Yeah. I'm like, I don't know. But it's good that somebody's still playing this stuff. So we were talking and we're like, well, we both have this deep connection to this music. I was coming at it from like a why do I have this deep connection to this music? And you were like, well, I just like this and I like this. And we started talking about bands that we love and like, let's put together like a list episode. And you talk about 5 and I'll talk about 5. Right. So do you want to kick us off with one of your 5 choices?
And I hope anyone watching this video who doesn't know these artists will go and take the time to discover them after they've finished watching, because there are some amazing people out there that are probably sampled in more songs than people realize. So my first number 1 is going to be the great Neil Sedaka. He has just turned 81, I think. He has been kicking around for 60 years, his career. And you'll probably know such songs as Calendar Girl, also a hit movie starring Jason Priestley, about a road trip of them going to go and find Marilyn Monroe, and Jerry O'Connell is in it. Neil Sedaka, what I like about Neil Sedaka, and the 50s and 60s are amazing, but you do get a lot of, like, as we do now, I guess, bands that are set up or singers that sing other people's songs. So I always loved singers who actually write their own songs. And he is pretty much the songwriting god of it. He went to Juilliard when he was 9 years old. He has hits. I'm going to read these off. Oh, Carol, Happy Birthday, Sweet 16. I Go Ape, Breaking Up Is Hard to Do. One of his biggest hits was the Captain and Tennille song, which was, what was the song?
The Love Will Keep Us Together.
Yes, Love Will Keep Us Together. And
they do that live on the Midnight Special. Do you know what the Midnight Special is?
I haven't seen it.
Okay, I think it's on YouTube if you want to look it up. But they, like, Captain and Tennille come up and they sing the song, and then he sings it with them, and it's like a 3-person performance. He's so amazing.
And I didn't know this until I was doing a little deep dive for this episode. He wrote the lyrics for Ring Ring by ABBA. Who knew? I think with just such a long career, he's just one of these people that I've absolutely loved. I remember hearing Calendar Girl for the first time. And I think a lot of my introduction to these artists stem from commercials or like really. I heard Calendar Girl for the first time on this TV. It was a dating show, and it was called Man Oh Man. I think it was Australian, and they had this awful show where they like lined up men, and the women would go along and push the ones they didn't like into the pool. And they had, I mean, it was terrible. It went on for years. But Calendar Girl was one of the things. I know. And it was just, he's one of my artists that I just think is brilliant. And he, funnily enough, he came to England because when the British invasion happened, your Beach Boys sustained it. But he came to England because he just couldn't get the success. He couldn't sustain the success because no one wanted to have like a solo male. And then Elton John picked him up and signed him here, which is when he had like Laughter in the Rain and all these other hits. So my number one, I don't know how much you want me to like talk, but my number one would be Neil Sedaka. He's still kicking. He's got a YouTube channel where he does these really sweet like weekly, daily concerts where he just like sings his hits. And I have my tattoo of a Neil Sedaka lyric on my rib.
I was wondering if you're going to bring that up or not. Like, you're hardcore.
He's so lovely. I went to the Royal Albert Hall, and I'll tell you why I booked tickets, because the Monkees were playing at the Royal Albert Hall. And it was really hard getting tickets. And I thought, you know what, I'll see them next time.
Yeah.
And you know why there wasn't a next time? Because Davy Jones went and died. So I thought anytime there's a chance. It was
spiteful, really.
How dare him, Davy Jones. He was just, I thought from now on, if there's someone that I really want to see, I'm just going to go and see them. So he was the next concert that I saw at the Royal Albert Hall. And there was this song called Beginning to Breathe Again, which was on his real Neil Sedaka album, which was later hits. And it was just really amazing. And so I got my tattoo on my ribs of his. But I highly recommend Neil Sedaka as a songwriter. Like he has been like written like 500 songs for other people and for him, and his music has been in so many films and TV shows. There was this, it's on YouTube, 90210. They have this great scene where I think it's like at a party, and Kelly, Donna, and someone else are wearing these like little black dresses, and they're singing Breaking Up Is Hard to Do. It's a great scene, and that was another reason why I became obsessed with Neil Sedaka, was from 90210. But he's choice number one.
That reminds me, that's a segue into like a conversation about one of the reasons that we know this stuff. You're talking about commercials and stuff, but this music in our childhood and like our formative years, this stuff was everywhere. I don't know if it's still like, I know, I guess I hear 80s music and stuff on commercials now, but I feel like for a while there, all through the 80s and the 90s, 50s and 60s music was so popular. It was in commercials. It was in so many different places. Lots of movies. Lots and lots of movies. Should I go?
That could segue into one of your soundtracks then.
I think we should get, I like how you're producing me. I really do. That's good.
Right.
I'm going to go with the Pulp Fiction soundtrack. And people are going to be like, Pulp Fiction, that's not old. But check it out. So Quentin Tarantino is such a great curator of the kind of stuff. Well, he does with music what he does with other scenes in movies too, where he'll like take them and he'll remix them and he'll repurpose stuff. But this soundtrack was so, it still is really, really great because it's a great little encapsulation of not one particular kind of music, but like a lot of different kinds of cool from the 50s and the 60s. So you've got Miserloo by Dick Dale, which is probably the most recognizable surf instrumental ever. He's got Kool and the Gang doing Jungle Boogie on here. He's got, I guess that's more 70s, but it doesn't matter. Dusty Springfield, Son of a Preacher Man, he made that song so popular again, like 25 years after it was a big hit the first time. He's got Chuck Berry on here. I mean, Surfrider. There's so much good stuff on here. He was like, hey, let me show you guys some cool stuff. And he's still doing it with like the Once Upon a Time in Hollywood soundtrack is an incredible soundtrack.
Yeah. That soundtrack, funnily enough, was the first time in a long time. I used to work near a vinyl store, this was only like 2 years ago. So this, they're popping up everywhere now. And the Once Upon a Time in Hollywood soundtrack was being released. It was the first thing in ages that had a release date, that there was buzz, and there was a queue round the block to get this soundtrack. I was like, go Quentin, go you.
Yes. How this came up like off recording, and I can cut this out if we want to, but I was talking about the dialogue in between the songs. Do you have an opinion on it?
I have an opinion in that I do like it. I think if it's done well, and what I like about, you either have the dialogue, or some albums have like little intermission instrumentals that bridge songs, and it becomes a whole piece of art. There's a reason that you put songs in a certain order. And what I hate now is that you can just shuffle, like not even between an album, you shuffle between playlists, and you miss that journey. And I think I like dialogue in albums, because I hate people that laugh in songs and in between, but dialogue, if it's relating to a soundtrack, I think is really nice, because it's bringing the film into it, and it's taking you on the same kind of journey the film took you on. So I'm a fan of it.
Yeah. All right. I like that. We'll just leave it there. I like that.
You're not convinced.
Well, no, it's some of it's good. I me, like I pick things apart, and sometimes I pick too far, and I'm like, well, I just pulled this thing apart. Now there's nothing left. Sometimes I wonder, like, is like the songs are classic, right? The songs at the time were already classics. And I'm like, did whoever put the compilation together, and this is a trend that's continued with all of his soundtracks, did they think the dialogue is as classic as the songs? Because that's bold right there. But I don't know if that's it.
It's a film soundtrack though. So that's his stamp on what like an artist would have done, and put their stamp on their own piece of work. Like he's chosen these songs to represent certain scenes and moods in his films.
And they give context.
And and so because you're buying the soundtrack, like you could just go and buy a Dusty Springfield album to go and listen to Preacher Man. But in the context of the soundtrack, it's like and I know this is on your list, but the American Graffiti soundtrack, they appear in order of what they appear in the film, because you're still on that. There's a reason things are done. Yeah. I'm a big fan. I'm also just a big fan of back in the day where you know track lists. Like what track number 6 is on something, and you can press play and you can listen to it all the way through, how it's supposed to be listened.
And you know what? The Miserloo, like the first song is Miserloo, and the dialogue for that is such an iconic scene from the movie, where it's like Amanda Plummer, she's like, it's I love you, honey bunny, and she's like, you will execute every mother. When I hear that, I think of the song, and when I hear the song, I think of the dialogue.
Exactly. It's like you don't go to a concert and they just go, what should we play? Like, let's just pick something out of a hat. Like they pick what song is going to be finally it's Christmas. They pick what song is going to be like the belter of, what are we going to open with? What's going to get people excited? And then, the concert is a journey just as much as an album is. Yes.
That's great. No, I love your perspective, and I'm going to take it and I'm going to internalize it. And there you go. Yeah. End of the video. Guys, thank you so much. Lisa, thanks right now. What's your number 2? Or are they in order? They're not like.
No, I'm just picking.
Yeah, what's your next one?
I'm going to go with. So it's not specifically like this album. I just happen to have this album. This was released after he died. And oh my God. So Buddy Holly, he's probably one of those artists that people know the songs, but don't realize the Stand By Me soundtrack. I remember telling you the story that Nev Campbell in an episode of Party of Five was singing every day. And I was like, what is that song? I have to know what that song is. Writing to the network, trying to work out what it is. He's someone that you don't realize, or you forget how short his career was. It was 3 years or something. And he died when he was 22, which as a kid seems so old, but now, right. You look at a 22-year-old now and you just think, how much would they have achieved? Right. He's I wrote down top 3 songs. of everyone that I wanted to recommend. Buddy Holly was True Love Ways, and he wrote all of these. He didn't write all his songs, but these 3 he wrote. True Love Ways, Words of Love, and Every Day. If anyone was going to go out and listen to Buddy Holly, it would be that. He was hugely instrumental to people. The Beatles called themselves the Beatles because of the crickets, following the bug trend. Elton John started wearing glasses because Buddy Holly wore glasses. I really want to visit Lubbock, Texas, because that's where he was born, and there's like a Buddy Holly museum there. He was just hugely influential to so many artists. Have you heard that Weezer song, Buddy Holly?
Yes.
We are just like Buddy Holly. I just think he's a great artist. He
had a great impact on like country music too, because that was, go ahead.
He was kind of more country.
Yeah.
Really. And he developed that kind of way of singing with like the stutter that I think infiltrated a lot of artists for that. He opened for Elvis early in his career. I think he's just someone that when you think about what he achieved in such a small period of time, maybe he's one of these people that if he didn't die so young, would they be, that old question, would they be so iconic if he had a 70-year career? But Buddy Holly for sure is he just seems so nice. And here's a fun fact about Buddy Holly. It's a sad fact though, when he died, his wife had a miscarriage because she found out from it being on the news. So because of that, they then changed the law that you had to be informed family and friends about, like family members about if something happened before you can announce the names on the news. So that was all Buddy Holly. So apart from his amazing music, but True Love Ways would be my ultimate Buddy Holly song, I think.
And then the whole talking about the influence, I mean, the song American Pie in the, I guess that was the 70s, right? Like that's about the death of, it was Buddy Holly, it was Richie Valens and the Big Bopper, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And there's always that famous story that there was someone who was sick and didn't go, and I think Richie Valens was the one that went instead. And that was back in the day. Like I would have loved to have been around in the day that you got these amazing lineups. Like they would do these concerts of 12, 15 artists, of people that you would just do anything to go and see now, and they would be playing in these like small little stadiums. And my mum always told me these stories. She's like, you never had security or these big concerts. You were there like 2 feet away from them, hanging out with them, and then they would just be like Roy Orbison, Buddy Holly, they would all just come on one after another and do their thing. And I was so envious of how it used to be. And so obviously he died doing that winter showcase tour. But he was just, I think I had read that Keith Richards was influenced by his guitar style from how he played. He did this kind of downward strum thing that, so Buddy Holly. And what I love this cover too, because I just think it's so symbolic of, he's still around.
Because that record also kind of tied into the punk movement of the 70s, and punks have a lot of respect for that era of music too. It really had such a long reach, and still today, I'm sure there's a lot of bands that would directly quote Buddy Holly. I mean, Waylon Jennings, the future outlaw country musician, was in, he was like playing with the band. I believe he even said, I didn't research this. I'm pulling this out. I believe he said like, I hope your plane crashes. And then it did. And it haunted him. I think it haunted him for the rest of his life.
Yeah, I can imagine. So, by the way, I know you're going to probably cut this. My dogs I can hear coming through. So if you hear a honking sound, that's going to be, ironically, Buddy is his name. So I wanted to get a second dog called Holly, but she's called Meg. She came with a name. So I didn't get my Buddy Holly pairing of dogs.
Well, it's not too late. You can get a little hamster.
Yeah, maybe.
Should I go with mine, or should we just wait a few minutes?
No, it should be all right.
I didn't hear anything.
Okay, they'll be around. If you don't mind a dog popping up every now and then.
That's okay.
Yeah, you go.
We're an animal-friendly YouTube channel.
Yay!
I have 3 cats here, and one of them wanted to be on camera, but I was like, no.
Oh, well, I'm sure I'll get Meg crying at my feet in about 5 minutes.
Yes. Okay, and we're back in. I feel like that's a good segue for the American Graffiti soundtrack. I
got mine as reference so I can read the songs.
Nice. And we have this is yours the Not Now music pressing of the I think it's the same thing.
I don't know what that means.
This is like an aftermarket UK. Look on the back. Does it have this?
Oh, yes. Not Now music.
Yeah. It's a free plug for Not Now. Not Now music, available in record stores everywhere and on the internet.
Which features a number of Buddy Holly songs, I see.
I was going to say it's a great tie-in because the American Graffiti, I was always a really big Star Wars fan. I'm still a Star Wars fan, especially the Star Wars that I grew up with, 4, 5, and 6. But American Graffiti, to me, at this point in my life, it does feel like George Lucas's greatest achievement artistically.
Yeah.
THX 1138 is like a great experimental art film, and Star Wars is, of course, this massive pop culture juggernaut. American Graffiti feels personal, and it feels autobiographical, and it feels very like human and relatable. And the songs that he filled that movie with, I mean, it's like, well, the soundtrack has 40. I don't know if yours does, but mine has 40 songs on it. It's got 20 on disc 1 and 20 on disc 2, and every one of them you could just immediately start singing them, like Love Potion number 9, Johnny Be Good, Since I Don't Have You, let's see,
you got your Beach Boys. They've got a couple of Stand By Me crossovers that I always liked on this with Del Shannon and the Del Vikings. Now, Del, was that a 50s thing that I just don't realize? Like Del Shannon, Del Vikings, was it just their name?
Well, I think Del Shannon was his name, but you're definitely onto something with the Dells, because Del that popped up a lot.
Yeah.
Del Taco and
Taco Del.
That's right. No, that's a good segue. Go ahead and start, because you want to talk about, you had a soundtrack too.
I do.
Was that on your list?
So one comment about this, which I think is really cool. Apart from, it was like in that era of movies where the filmmakers started to make films about themselves, like for kids, people their age. It was one of the first films that had a soundtrack that wasn't an underlying score. It was songs that the characters would be listening to.
Right.
Apparently, there's a word for it. I couldn't pronounce it. It begins with D. But
what's like source music, right? Or
but it's like, instead, like you're listening to songs that the characters will be listening to, like on a radio or at a concert, or in the background, as opposed to it being.
I thought it was source music, but I could be wrong. Yeah, like they're like, hey, let's turn on the radio, and then
exactly. But yes, I have a soundtrack. This was one of my cassettes that I threw out because I literally played it so much I could hear the reverse thing. So now and then, what I love, it's a great film. It didn't have a great reception, but I love films that have an obsession with like a summer, like, oh, it was the summer of 59 and the summer of 68 and all these amazing things happened. I feel like that's the romanticism of these films that I long for. It's like, I think Americans, you weigh years by memories by summers. The summer of 82, the summer of 86. Maybe it's a film thing. Dirty Dancing, Stand By Me. Anyway.
Not sure if Bryan Adams' summer of 69.
Exactly. It's like the greatest summer of our lives happened. And so now and then is like, again, coming of age.
The UK doesn't have that because they don't have summer.
No, we don't. It's like, it was the great 3 days of our life.
Yes.
It's like Demi Moore, Rosie O'Donnell, Melanie Griffith, Gabby Hoffman, Christina Ricci, like pretty good cast. Anyway, the soundtrack. Sugar Sugar is on it. I'm obsessed with this. I'm a huge Jackson 5 fan too.
Yes.
And so you're left with I Want You Back and I'll Be There, which you forget how young. Like, you listen to his vocals, you just forget how young. It's got, I'm saying all my dogs here. It's got Susanna Hoffs from the Bangles did the title track. Diana Ross and the Temptations. They've got Free, All Right Now, Badfinger. They've got the Monkees. Daydream Believer on there. Now, what's funny, and I don't think this was on my cassette. So this says it has 12 tracks. There is a weird track 10 on this CD that is not listed anywhere. That like according to my CD player, it has 13 tracks, but so I Shazammed it, and I've never heard of this track. It's called Those Eyes by the Guess Who. Have you heard of the Guess Who?
Yes.
They're on this. I don't even know if they're in the movie, but they're on my CD.
Isn't the Guess Who American Woman? Like dun 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 dun. Isn't that the Guess Who?
I don't know.
While you're talking, I'm gonna look.
Track 10 isn't Diana Ross and the Supremes, because as we know, it's really great to know track numbers because you don't shuffle CDs. You can learn the order of where they come in. So I was expecting Diana Ross.
So is that song missing, or is it just later? Is it one track later? The Diana Ross song.
It's just one track later.
So they've added a track to
They've added a track and haven't listed it. But anyway, it's just, this was one of these soundtracks that I played on loop in my cassette player. I remember being on a cruise when I was 14 and they had a jukebox and Sugar Sugar was on it. And so that was I spent 2 weeks listening to Sugar Sugar on this cruise. And it's a really great Motown based soundtrack, like geared towards like Diana Ross and Jackson 5, and Stevie Wonder is on there. Tony Orlando, which I don't know any of his other songs, but Knock 3 Times, which is a great, like, what a great song to have. Just a song about someone that has got a crush on the person upstairs and they're like, just knock on the pipes if you like want to date me. Like what a simple, amazing time that would be to just.
It's the dating app of the 1959.
Yeah. And I think that's what I really like about all these kind of songs too, is that it's like teenagers singing about teenagers and teenage love and teenage crushes. And it's like everyone remembers their kind of teenage years and their first love. And it's my dog coming. I know. And so I think that's why maybe people gravitate to these like you do when you're 13, 14, 15 to that time in your life. It's like you gravitate to these songs about like being a teenager and going out and having your first car. And I just think it's really sweet. So
there were a lot of, you were talking about how like the nostalgia thing. You're right. There's a ton of those. Like Stand By Me is like, that was the last summer of innocence.
Yeah.
There's a ton of stuff like that.
Yeah,
and
the Goonies, this is our last chance. Well, they're not summer, but like this is our last chance.
But it is like this is the end of our time or whatever.
I guess it's the coming of age thing. It's like, this is our last summer together as kids before we have to go off because my dad's got another job and he's moving. Or
American Graffiti is like that because they're about to split up. It's the group of friends. One's going into the military.
Yeah, it's like the last hurrah. So
I wonder if they still make movies like that are like, I mean, and we're in such a blockbuster.
There was an indie film that was doing the festival rounds called Summer of '84, which was kind of a Stranger Things vibe, which was kind of like a dark version of, a coming of age thing. But I just don't think so. I think everyone really is doing sequels and remakes, and it's not this.
You know what? Every time I say that, people are like, all right, old man. Like I talk about the modern trend of the blockbusters and the superhero movies, and the people want spectacle movies. That's what Martin Scorsese was saying when he got in trouble by the youngins when he said that he thought they were like roller coaster rides of movies, like thrill rides, and that he wasn't interested in directing those. And people were like, listen, old man, what have you given us, Martin Scorsese?
Yeah.
And I think that, I think it's true though that I don't think they're making a lot. They may still make a few of them. Of course, now they're probably being made digitally for like $5,000 in the field behind somebody's house or something.
Yeah,
but I don't think they. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry.
No,
I was going to say, now we're in a position where people our age, which is probably why you have the superhero movies, because finally the kids that grew up loving superheroes are at an age where they can make films about it. Hopefully we'll have the same thing of people doing this nostalgia element of doing fantasy films or, the coming of age films or the teenage films.
Well, that's interesting too. That's a good point, because the nostalgia now would be for 80s and 90s movies, which were big, technically superior special effects movies, like,
I mean, they're doing another Scream.
Yeah.
It's coming out, which maybe I hope they don't do a Clueless remake, but you know, hopefully
They are. They're doing it for television, aren't they? I think they're doing a TV series of Clueless. And I believe the angle is that, yeah, never mind. I think that's true. We'll verify it later, but I think nothing is safe anymore. Nothing is off the table.
No.
That reminds me of the Wonder Years, and that's a good segue. Our segues are on point, I have to say.
It's almost like we rehearsed them.
It's almost like we've done this before. The Wonder, like when what?
I was saying it to everyone, that's an in-joke.
It is. We just don't like. Maybe we did this before. Maybe we shot like an hour, and we're like, we can do better than that.
We might have done it before, and
whatever.
To get better backdrops and dress and have a, you know.
Yeah, maybe there was like a fly on the lens the whole time. It was like, we can't use it. When I think of the Wonder Years, the show with Fred Savage and Danica. Yeah, Danica. Danica Patrick's the race car driver.
Yeah.
Yes. I always think of the Byrds in that song "Turn, Turn, Turn," like down, down, bam, bam. Yeah. It's so ingrained, and it's been overused now, of course, because all these songs have, like, every Vietnam movie has like ding, 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 like every Vietnam movie. But at the time, it felt really special, and I've got all these mental associations with like the Wonder Years, like certain kinds of movies. So I am a huge fan of the Byrds. 1960s, I guess they're folk rock, but they kind of pioneered like the jingle jangle sound. I think there's an Archie's album called Jingle Jangle, if I remember
correctly. Is.
Yes.
There is. Which I know now.
Because you're a huge Archie's fan. You've got an Archie, you've got an A on your letter jacket.
That could be it. But so no, it was interesting you picked the Byrds, because it actually, because your original pick was also the Rascals. So you kind of introduced me to these two bands, which I knew of, but didn't really know the music. So I appreciated the Byrds. I hadn't really been familiar with much of their music apart from the Turn, Turn, Turn. And there was another
Tambourine Man is another big one.
Yeah, they're the two that I really know.
I would also recommend, I should be doing recommendations. I haven't really done that. I would also recommend for the Byrds, listen to 8 Miles High, which is awesome. And Mr. Spaceman is another one that I like. And there's one more. I'll leave it there. That's enough.
But also the Byrds, with their little nod to the Beatles of the misspelling of an animal
with a Y.
Yeah. And I think they, from what I read in my little kind of deep dive, they were one of the few bands that survived the British invasion. Were they? Wow. As in, like, I think probably because their marketing, like their image, I thought they were British.
Oh, I see what you
looked into them, because again, just from the Neil Sedaka thing, there wasn't a place for anyone apart from British acts really at that time. I think the Byrds were one, and the Beach Boys were another. But
yes, no, that's true. They survived all through the 60s. I think they kind of went their separate ways in about 72, but in 72 things had gone into a very different direction. Yeah, they were very much that, I guess I call it kind of like the San Francisco hippie movement scene, the music of Forrest Gump, right? Like that sort of thing.
Yeah, dancing at the monument and the reflecting pool.
I think of the Byrds music. I think of like people with flowers in their hair and like sundresses and like, jazz cigarettes.
Exactly. But I don't know how long the Byrds were together. Like, I don't know if they've had
they had a lot of lineup changes,
but like, it always amazes me how short time period bands are actually like bands, that remain a band. It's always like 4 or 5 years or something. You always
like Cream. That Cream with Eric Clapton, like the Yardbirds, Buffalo Springfield was just, some of these were like super tiny. And then it's so interesting too how like this band will break up, and then Australia, kind of going, I don't know if you are like the Twilights. There was an Australian band called the Twilights in the 60s. No. So that band breaks up, and one of the guys goes and starts the Little River Band, which is
okay.
It's all so it's just like movies. It's like you can connect all these little connections stuff. It's fascinating.
Was David? Did I read right that David Crosby was an original member of the Byrds, and then went on?
David Crosby, Roger McGuinn. Trying to find I don't know if he's gonna show up, but this is David Crosby right here.
Aw,
little
look at those haircuts.
Yeah, like little baby face David Crosby.
I miss bands that all kind of dress the same. And did you ever see, who was it? Was it Freddie and the Dreamers that had this like weird kind of leg flick when they danced? Like Jerry and the Pacemakers, all those kind of bands dressed the same. They had the little haircuts. Like I miss, like That Thing You Do, I guess, was a good look at that band world.
That's one of my favorite movies of all time.
And the fact that Tom Hanks wrote that song.
I know. It doesn't get enough. It gets a lot of love, but I feel like it should be everyone's favorite movie.
Yeah. You Look Great in Red. Have I told you that? It's such a good film. Oh, I don't know, it's pretty good. Great soundtrack too.
Quick diversion. What did you listen to some Rascals? You pursued that a little bit?
I did. It was again one of those bands, that grooving song.
I
didn't realize it was them.
But It's a Beautiful Morning.
Love that song.
Yeah.
And like I didn't realize it was them. So I had a really good little foray. I wrote down a couple of songs that I liked from it just in case we talked about it. So there was a song, How Can I Be Sure? I don't know if they were the original, but one of my obsessions was the Gloria Estefan cassette that I had, which was the Hold Me, Thrill Me, Kiss Me. And I bought that cassette because she did a cover of How Can I Be Sure? But at the time I thought it was original, and I thought it was amazing. And the lead song from, so that was my like little, oh my God, the Rascals did Gloria Estefan.
It's a whole separate issue too, is like we grew up with like, well, it happens to this day because I know people who the White Stripes did I Just Don't Know What to Do with Myself.
Yeah.
And people think Jack White, like that's a White Stripes original. Like, no, that's a Dusty Springfield song from the 60s. So much White Stripes music is covers of what we're talking about, 50s and 60s songs.
Yeah.
But you have to dig to find out, I guess.
Well, I think we were talking about sampling too, like so many songs sample.
Yeah.
Like listening to the Now and Then soundtrack with I Want You Back, that the Rugrats theme was a great sample of that song. I don't know if you remember from the Rugrats movie, it was Maya and Blackstreet. It was like kind of a rap. It was called Take Me There. Such a good song. But it's funny because sometimes I listen to songs now on the radio knowing the original songs, but at the time, like Janet Jackson I was like, oh, great, Janet Jackson's on the radio, but it's like the original song. And so there's probably so many that we grew up with that we didn't know what they were sampling. Like I think I emailed you saying I realized the day that Ghetto Superstar was actually a Dolly Parton song. Blew my mind.
Yeah, it's so crazy, and it's way, I was gonna say it's worse. That's not, I'll try to take it's more popular than I think it's ever been before, the sampling phenomenon.
Yeah. Well, a lot of rap artists I think became mainstream because they finally had a melody to it.
Yeah, that's how they got started, is they just take like old records and
I watched that. There was a Biggie documentary on because I'm not too familiar with his music, but there was a Biggie documentary on Netflix where they talk about it, and one of his first samples was Toto, Africa. It was brilliant. It was so good.
That's cool.
And probably a lot of his followers didn't know who it was.
Yeah, that's cool. What you got next? What's next?
Are we me next?
I think because I did the Birds.
Ricky Nelson.
Nice.
So
who is on the Pulp Fiction soundtrack?
Who is on the Pulp Fiction? See how it all connects together. So Ricky Nelson, when we had maybe done a first version of this, that
what? I don't know.
I
don't know.
Because I only knew Ricky Nelson from the day, again, there was a commercial, there was a body spray commercial in like 92 where this guy goes up to this woman at the bar, and she puts Hello Mary Lou on the jukebox and kind of sings a bit.
You're doing this. I was like, did she put something in his drink? What is going on?
That's her turning the dial in the jukebox.
Gotcha.
And so then he goes off and like puts his body spray on him and then comes back with this Hello Mary Hello Mary Lou tattoo. Like he's going to really impress her because he's got this body spray. Anyway, that was the day that I discovered Ricky Nelson. So I didn't really know of him as the child star Ricky Nelson that you had mentioned, the adventures of Ozzie and Harriet, which I didn't realize was his parents, and they were kind of a big kind of entertainment family.
I think he went for like 12 years, which is a long time.
Like the longest running sitcom, one of the longest running sitcoms. Anyway, so I didn't discover Ricky Nelson, but that excites me that I get to go back and rediscover elements of him. But what I love about Ricky Nelson is just I think his songs are so just pure and simple. Like my top 3 songs from Ricky Nelson would be obviously Hello Mary Lou, Teenage Idol, which I think is really sad, but and Just a Little Too Much. They're my 3 recommends for Ricky Nelson. My fun fact about Ricky Nelson that I discovered in my deep dive is when the Billboard 100 was created in 1958, his song was the first #1 to be put on the Billboard 100.
Wow.
In its inception. So that is Ricky Nelson. He died in a plane crash, sadly. This running theme with my picks. Like he was in his 40s when he died in a plane crash. And so I think, again, maybe there's that element of, would he still be so iconic? But I guess he had that background of, you know, being Ricky Nelson, the teenage idol. Again, one of those artists that you just kind of pop up on a soundtrack or know his song, but maybe not connect that it's all going to be the same person. But he had, you know, a pretty amazing career and like 50 odd #1 hits or something, or top 10 hits or something ridiculous. So Ricky Nelson, super excited to go back to discover the young Ricky Nelson.
How do you feel about Lonesome Town? I think that's my favorite one.
That's what songs like that and Garden Party, I think, is so like just beautifully honest. I think it kind of feels rare to get someone that has a song like that now. Like I feel like a male singer, and this might be very general and maybe you'll get a lot of people going, that's true, but I feel like a male singer like maybe would be hesitant to be so kind of raw with something. I feel like it's just super sweet and super honest, and I feel like you can really like feel what he's singing. And I think that's where he does ballads really well. Like he has a couple of really great up-tempo ones, but I think he's really great with the emotional ballads.
Yeah.
And Lonesome Town is sad.
Yeah, it is. And that's the one on the Pulp Fiction soundtrack too. I think,
it's such a good song.
Town. He had a great career. He did die young. Well, he didn't die. I won't say he died young. He died younger than he should have.
Yeah.
But he did so much. It's hard to say like, well, look what was left on the table for him. Like he accomplished so much. And I'm sure a lot of people watching this don't even know who he is. So definitely go check it out and listen to some Ricky Nelson because he was cool. Really cool.
You have your last one left.
I've got 2 left. How did that?
Oh, I went first, so then I've got one, and then you've got one.
Okay. I'm gonna do the spoonful. Love and Spoonful. Love the Love and Spoonful.
Dream.
Which one was that? I didn't hear.
Daydream. I'm singing it out of key so you wouldn't have licensing copyright issues.
Oh, okay.
Done on purpose.
No, I was talking and so I didn't hear it. Let's see. You Didn't Have to Be So Nice. That's Did You Ever Have to Make Up Your Mind?
What would your top 3 be?
Summer in the City. See, I've got volume 1 here. I've got the albums too, but I thought this would be more approachable for the viewer. And here's volume 2. So I'm gonna go with Summer in the City. Hot Top, Summer in the City. That riff. And that video, they did it. There's a video for it. He's got the so John Sebastian wore these little granny glasses, the round rim granny glasses. John Lennon liked it and appropriated it. So John Sebastian did it first.
There you go. He also apparently created tie-dye. he apparently wore a home tie-dye shirt and started the tie-dye trend. So
millions of Grateful Dead fans across the world just stopped what they were doing and looked in our direction.
Well,
that's crazy. I didn't know that.
Fun facts: if you subscribe to Serial at Midnight, that you can go home with.
I appreciate that. That's a nice. That's my plug. I'm gonna take that out and put it at the beginning of every video. I'm gonna go with "Darling Be Home Soon" because I think that's a great one too. Oh man, I don't know. There's so many that let's go. Do You Believe in Magic? I mean, that's a super mainstream one, but that's okay.
I don't think that's wrong. It's mainstream because it's popular.
That's
My
right.
ones were going to be Do You Believe in Magic, Darling Be Home Soon, and Rain on the Roof.
Nice.
Summer in the City was like a tough call to not have on that list, but
it's got such a groove to it, you know. Summer in the City. It's such a
you can when you listen to the song, you know, the kind of sepia grade in New York, like with the fire hydrants bursting water, and you can feel. I imagine
got like traffic noise in it.
Do you remember the music video for Smooth by Santana and Rob Thomas?
Yes.
That's how I imagine Summer in the City to be.
Aren't there like kids playing near a fire hydrant in that video?
Probably. You know.
Gotta be, right?
Yeah.
Here's a tie-in for you because I know you've had an opportunity to kind of document the photographer. Tell me about that connection to the Loving Spoonful's photography.
Well, so I just produced this 6-part TV series for Sky Arts. It's not out. I think it's on PBS coming soon. It's called Icon.
Okay.
And it's about music photography and celebration of music photography. And so part of that, we interviewed photographers and artists about their work. And I was very lucky to be there. I didn't interview myself, but I was there when we interviewed Henry Diltz, who worked with the Lovin' Spoonful. He was like the Woodstock's official photographer. He did Morrison Hotel for the Doors album cover, like Jackson 5. And so he was so I was like, tell me about Lovin' Spoonful. And so I was really excited about that. But just how amazing to be. I think he did some of their promo shots and a couple of album covers for it. So he did John Sebastian's solo album cover.
Okay, the one with the Welcome Back Kotter song on it. I'm sorry, what?
I don't know if that's on it. It's the John B. Sebastian album.
Okay.
Maybe. I've just ordered it off eBay, so I don't have it yet. So I'm super excited.
Gotcha.
But yeah, just to be in the room with these people that like have taken the photos of these people.
Is there something on fire behind you?
Oh, so no, the lights are on a timer. And Ash set that to flicker, so it looks like we're kind of camping, and it's like glowing, but it's like a normal light bulb that flickers.
Okay.
So no,
I was like, we need to deal with that real quick.
No, sorry, because obviously it's like evening in the UK, so everything's like dying down, lights coming on. But yeah, so just amazing to meet people like that. And I tried to get an interview with Joe Butler for it. And I talked to him on the phone. I was like, hey, Joe, love for you to be in this series. Yeah. What's up, Jay? But we couldn't make it out to New York. He did say yes, though. So
that's awesome. The reason I asked you about it is because this pressing, this greatest hits, contains large full-color individual photos of John, Joe, Steve, and Zal. And when I found this, I bought this used from my record store because you know the story. I mean, I got like a ton of records for almost nothing. Yeah. They're still in here. It still has all of these photos. And I wonder if it's the photographer that it doesn't have a name on it.
Well, I wonder what the motivation was. He's like, you know what? We've got this colorful kind of donut looking thing. I think you should hold it. I think that's going to be really cool. That first one you've got.
Oh, yeah. It's like a baby toy. Yeah.
It might say the photographer on the back of the sleeve, maybe, like the actual back of the album.
Let's see. It doesn't say it there. Oh, hold on. Cover design. No, all photos by Henry Diltz.
That was him, Henry Diltz.
And also these inside here as well.
Oh, bless. It was so, his house, Henry's house, was the one we were in, was just his storeroom. And it was just wall to wall of boxes of negatives. And you walk around and every like box had a little tab going Zappa, MJ, like Dylan. And it was just so bizarre to be there. So I was very excited that I was like 1 degree from the Loving Spoonful.
Very cool. And if you get a chance to talk to him again, you can be like, "What's up with the baby toy in the Loving Spoonful?"
Yeah, Joe.
It's cool, but why? Who had the baby toy?
It's probably worth millions now. Millions.
Yeah, for
real. My segue, you were talking about Grateful Dead. So this is kind of a segue. So the artists who did this I wrote it down so I would get it right. The artist who did this did the skull and roses on the Grateful Dead's image. Oh. And they also did Journey's logo. So that's my segue into Steve Miliband, which I got this when I saw them in concert. They were opening for Creedence Clearwater, and I think I was the only person there that left after the opening act because I was there to see Steve Miller, not Creedence. Actually, Creedence were really good, but I left halfway. So Steve Miliband, this is the only album I own because this is one that my dad played on loop. So I'm slowly now getting to know more of his music on Spotify, which I do shuffle. But I mean, it's the song, everyone knows The Joker, right? That's going to be their most iconic song. Fatboy Slim did a great remix where there was all kittens in the video. I don't really know what to say about Steve Miller other than you just have to listen to them. There's a little connection to the Now and Then soundtrack because there's a song on the album of Steve Miller's called Rockin' Me, and they did a nod to Freeze or Right Now, which is on the Now and Then soundtrack. So if you listen to both, they both kind of sound the same at the beginning. It's just a funky band. Like, one of my favorite songs on the album is Take the Money and Run, which was written because he just wanted to write a road trip song. So every song kind of feels like you're doing something, like you feel like you're on a road trip when you listen to that song. So my picks for Steve Miller, my 3 song choices, if people were going to listen, is Take the Money and Run, The Joker, which everyone probably knows anyway, and there's a great song called Dance, 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 which is just, as soon as you hear it, you're like in a barn doing some kind of cowboy shuffle, like you were just there drinking whiskey. They're a really visceral band when you listen. Like, I feel like you could be in a music video when you listen to them.
Nice.
So that is my Steve. And he's still touring. Just as Steve Miller, though. I think there were a lot of changes in the lineup.
Steve Miller and Company.
There is a great, by the way. It took a while for them to license their song to be sampled. There is a great song by Run DMC and Everlast. Do you remember Everlast? They had that I don't know any others other than that.
I don't either.
Take the Money and Run. It's on YouTube. It's a great sample. They kind of do the chorus, but then they rap the verse. It's really good. So that would be my final pick of one of my favorite albums.
The bonus pick.
Yep.
I'll be quick with the last one. I hope people are familiar. I love the Beach Boys. And
who? Sorry,
who are the Beach Boys?
Don't know.
I feel like maybe in modern times the Beach Boys are so in plain sight that they are overlooked, because I think a lot of people know some of the songs, but I don't know if younger generations are familiar. Like, they're like, oh, that's the Beach Boys.
Yeah.
I mean, the songs that Brian Wilson is the heart and soul of the Beach Boys. I got to see him during his tour in 2017. It was amazing.
Oh, I've never seen them.
Oh man. Well, it was just Brian Wilson, but Al Jardine was with them. And Blondie Chaplin was with him too, who's a great musician in his own right, but he can't hit the high notes anymore. So he had, I think it was Al Jardine's son, come out and do the really high, the falsetto stuff.
Right.
But I mean, the Beach Boys are like for generations and generations, they are the soundtrack of summer. They are, I mean, it's in hamburger commercial, like Sonic drive-in commercials here in the US. I mean, it's so synonymous. And so California Girls, I Get Around, Surf and Safari. These are songs that I think everybody knows. God Only Knows, Good Vibrations, like the theremin and Good Vibrations, like, it's so good. It hurts.
They did. I think one of their advantages, apart from they were hugely talented, is I think when you get siblings, it's like the Bee Gees, when you get, and Hanson, when you get siblings, that their voices just blend so well together that you can't ever have that happen if you just kind of put an ad out and say, I'm gonna make a band. Like, I think that they did things with harmonies that, and kind of blended different genres of music as well. It just, they were like the queen of the West Coast, like surf music, in terms of just being kind of on the forefront of different sounds, like all the things in Good Vibrations, and it was probably too long for radio and all of those things that, you know, people, record labels would complain about, but then changed music.
Yeah. Well, and it's such an interesting story too, the way that they, like, their dad was running the show, and then they kind of, because I mean, they write surf songs, but they're not, well, one of them was a surfer. So it was Brian, Carl, Dennis Wilson, and Mike Love is in the band, Al Jardine, Bruce Johnson. Anyway, they like cut their teeth on this sound. They become really popular with this sound, and then they outgrow it and they want to do other things. And their dad's like, you know, no, we're making hits, guys. And there comes to a point where they're just like, you got to get out. And then what follows that is Pet Sounds, which is, of course, Pet Sounds influenced the Beatles, because the Beatles listened to Pet Sounds and they're like, we have to up our game. They've taken this thing to the next level. So then they go work on Sgt. Pepper, and it's this amazing, like, cross-pollination of mid-60s creativity. And the irony is, I don't think they ever really did have, like, that was kind of when that stuff is kind of like Pet Sounds, all that stuff is kind of the end of classic era Beach Boys, because they never really topped it again. And then you get into like the later 60s stuff and the 70s stuff, and it's something else entirely.
Yeah.
And then like Mike Love goes to the Indian retreat where the Beatles are at to see the Maharishi, and they're like trying to learn transcendental meditation. And of course it was just a window in time, which is, I guess, why we feel so nostalgic about that era of Beach Boys. I'm going to tell people to listen to the three. I'll pick three. So I Get Around, which is in The Flight of the Navigator, which
certainly is.
You made a documentary about that.
Did I?
You did. And I'm going to hold it up again.
lifeaftermovies.com. What?
I think say it again.
Available from lifeaftermovies.com.
What do they get? If they buy this, what do they get?
Available now is signed Joey Kramer discs. So if you want a signed one by the Navigator himself, and I've got really cool little patches that if you get the bundle pack of both Blu-rays, you get both patches. Now with a Life After Flash one that I don't have with me, but I'll send you soon so you can have it. Yay!
Do you know the song Patches? That old blue that's a 70s.
Clarence Carter.
I think that should come with it too. You should send Patches and then you record Patches.
A great song that is. And how unexpected are those lyrics? Like when you start the song, you don't think that's going to get where it does, but it does.
Yeah.
What a great singer Clarence Carter is. Patches. Did you finish your top three? I think you just had I Get Around. You've got to do two more.
Yeah, I wanted to get that plug in there though.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Good Vibration. Like everybody knows Good Vibrations, right? Do I need to say that, or should I say with something else? Let me look. What if I was like Kokomo? I'm not going to do Kokomo. Sloop John B. And I'm going to tell somebody to go deep. Go listen to Surf's Up, because Surf's Up is an amazing Brian Wilson composition that took a while to get out. And he still is like, that's not really quite what I wanted, but I think it is his absolute masterpiece. I think Surf's Up is the greatest Brian Wilson composition of all time.
Big
It's
call.
amazing. So
that's a big call. My 3, if people were going to listen, is Barbara Ann, just because it was on loop in the car when I was growing up, along with The Happening by the Supremes. Those 2 songs were my road trip songs. So Barbara Ann, Do It Again, I think is just really cool. And Still Cruisin' would be my...
Still Cruisin'.
Yeah.
How does that go?
I'm not going to sing it.
You'll sing patches to the thousands of people that buy
Unless I just got the title wrong and I'm thinking of another song, but
no, I think you're right. That sounds right. I just can't place it. I can't, because that's I want to say Still Cruising is like
an album too, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Unless it was like a line, unless I thought that it was the title of a song.
No, I bet you're right.
And it's just a line in a song that I've thought the title was wrong this whole time.
All right, when we finish recording, you got to sing it or something. Still Cruising is it's the 26th studio album by the Beach Boys. It's from 1989. Maybe so.
I'm sure
it's from Lethal Weapon 2.
It's a song.
Life After Lethal Weapon 2.
I'm like, because I was trying to sing it in my head and go, maybe I'm getting mixed up with the title, but I'm sure there's the line is like Still Cruising After All These Years. It's a great song.
I think that's exactly what you're talking about, is like their 1989. Awesome. You went deep cut late era Beach Boys right here at the end.
And I didn't even mean to.
That's some super credibility right there. Well, how do we want to leave this? So I think that's clearly we have a lot of passion for this topic. This music means a lot, and I would love for people to go explore. And this is like a jumping off point for
even just 1 or 2 songs of the ones we've listed. And I feel like our job is done. Our work here is done.
That's right. What more do they want?
I mean, you're welcome.
What?
First of all, opening your mind.
Want blood? What do you want? We cut our hearts out. We give it to you. You want more? No. It's great. This music is, and this is, we could have, I know for a fact, we could have easily come up with 5 more, 10 more, probably 35 more. I mean,
we were emailing our short lists, like, it's like choosing children, trying to pick which ones to not include. And
absolutely.
Why don't we finish it by doing like 2 honorable mentions?
Okay. Then you have to go first with that.
Okay. My honorable mentions would be The Kinks and Bread.
Favorite Kinks song?
8 Man and Lola.
Favorite Bread song?
I'm not going to say Guitar Man because that's going to be your one. I really like Diary.
I don't have to say anything. Go
and Make It With You.
I'd like to make it. That's a good one. Those are all. Bread was, what is that? Bubblegum? Do we call that bubblegum? That's got like, easy listening.
Like classic rock, emotional rock. Soft. It was kind of like, because it was.
You know what? It's AM gold here in the US.
What's that? Is that
AM? Well, so like AM and FM radio stations, the AM would have been more. I believe. Oh, geez, now I'm getting in over my head. I'm bailing. I'm pulling it. I'm aborting.
Abort.
Yeah. Who? I'll go with Tommy James and the Shondells.
Mm-hmm.
Because I really like them, and I'm kind of on a whole jag of Tommy James and the Shondells. This box set came out in the UK. Cherry Red Records. Go ahead.
Did they do Dragging the Line? Is that
yes?
them?
Yes,
That's
they did.
A great song from the. I know it.
REM covered that.
Babysitter's Dead soundtrack.
Oh, really?
I don't know if it's their cover, but that's how I knew the song, and then discovered.
Yeah. And then REM covered it for the Austin Powers The Spy Who Shagged Me soundtrack, if I remember correctly.
There you go. My dogs are about to start going
We got a fan. There's a fan.
I know.
The dog is a fan.
They'll go out in a second. Hang on.
What's my second? Help me out. What did I talk about in that imaginary other thing we did? I'll go Monkeys. Let's do Monkeys. Monkeys are great. Cool. They started out as like a pretend band. They were cast for their looks.
Yeah.
as
the
like
irony of being cast like to do a show about a band that isn't successful to become one of the most successful.
It's like they wanted to do Hard Day's Night basically as a TV series with just like, oh, it's so crazy to be a rock band or a pop band or whatever they were. And I don't even think they played their instruments on most of those early albums, but then like they became incredible. And Mike Nesmith, shout out to Nesmith, he kind of created country rock in the late 60s. Like here's a rabbit hole you can go down, is Mike Nesmith like breaks contract to get out of the Monkees and go do his own thing. And so he starts like the first national band, and like cowboy hat, like nobody was really doing it. And he kind of goes like alternative country in the late 60s and never had the Monkees level of success as a solo act, but oh my gosh, it's so good.
I think it's Mike Nesmith who I read this about. It's one of the Monkees. I'm sure it's Mike Nesmith. He later became a producer and produced the music video for The Way You Make Me Feel, Michael Jackson, and I think it was All Night Long from Lionel Richie, the two that I read about.
He also, I can't remember the name of it, but he did a video project that predates MTV, but it was like packaged music videos with a narrative, and it was, I can't remember the name of it, but it's like he kind of created what would be MTV before MTV existed as well.
Mike Nesmith. You know who Mike Nesmith needs to talk to is Serial at Midnight, about all the amazing things that he has done in movies.
We'll have to see about that. That'd be really cool.
That'll be amazing.
Yeah, but it's good stuff. Have you heard the new, well, it's not new anymore, but the latest Monkees studio album from about 3 or 4 years ago?
No.
It's called Good Times. When we wrap up, check out Me and Magdalena, and it's the most beautiful song ever.
Okay. I have to check out. I haven't heard that Brian Wilson song that you talked about.
Surf's Up, yeah.
That will be, we're exploring and learning about new music, even though we thought we knew it all. Well, we didn't, but
I didn't think I knew it all. No, I did. No. Guys, this has been a jam-packed episode of Serial at Midnight. Thanks to Lisa Downs, filmmaker extraordinaire. And what are you guys gonna? Yeah, what are you gonna do? You're gonna go over to Life After Movies, and you're gonna check out these two documentaries. Hey, what's happening with like the whole Life After? Like, what's coming up?
As well, funnily enough, if people go to lifeaftermovies.com, you can pre-order Life After Atreyu. I'm doing a limited pre-order window until the end of May, where if you pre-order, you get the patch. I'll sign it, and you get your name in the film's credits. And also it helps support the film. So that the name in the credits will only happen until the 30th of May. So that's very exciting. So as soon as lockdown ends, we'll keep filming for that. And then, of course, the web show, which little old YouTube channel trying to get the success that Serial at Midnight has.
No, but tell people who you've talked to on the web show.
It's a lovely little kind of nostalgic channel. We've been very lucky. We talked to people like Brian May, Claudia Wells, and Bob Gale from Back to the Future. Noah, of course, from Noah Hathaway, Never Ending Story. Joey from Flight of the Navigator. Keith Coogan, I was super excited to talk to, like Don't Your Mum, the Babysitter's Dead, and Toy Soldiers. So we have like a range of people that we've been lucky enough to talk to, and some exciting ones coming up.
It's great. And the connections that you've made, you know that I have such admiration for you as a filmmaker and as a creator, the voice that you have and the strive, like you are, and I think it's become very apparent during this conversation, you have an optimism and you have like a core of truth and I don't know, like purity that really comes through in your work. And I don't even know if you're putting it there on purpose, but it's there and it's great. And everything you do has this like authenticity and this positivity and this really uplifted, wonderful quality. So,
well, thank you. Well, it wasn't intentional. It kind of just happened that way. So I'll take it.
Yes. Well, I mean, you're not doing like, well, we're going to talk to this person. you know, like
yeah.
Everything has like there's just a kindness and it comes through. And so I love your documentaries. People subscribe to the YouTube channel. I'm going to put links in the description of this video. And also I'll put a little card at the end here. So when we finish talking, don't click away and there'll be a little button. You can just boop, you can just subscribe without even having to go look for it. So
yay.
Lisa, thank you. This has been an absolute blast.
Thank you for having me. And I look forward to having you on the web show. We should do a web show crossover.
Yeah, you should have your people call my people. We'll see. What
I will.
We'll do lunch. And guys, thank you for watching this video. We would love to continue the conversation. So let us know, hey, what some of your favorite songs are here, what some of your favorite discoveries are, and recommendations. I'd love to have recommendations. So we'll keep it going. Guys, thanks so much. Take care. And until next time, we will catch you later.